Hello and welcome to Thecrimereel. Today's case is about a gifted Harvard graduate student whose life was tragically ended early. So today's case is the Jane Britton case, a life interrupted, a mystery eventually solved. Jane Britton was born on May the 17th, 1945. She was raised in Needham, Massachusetts, in a family deeply immersed in academic life. Her father, J. Boyd Britton, was the administrative vice president of Radcliffe College, whilst her mother, Ruth Britton, was a scholar in medieval history. Jane grew up in a loving family, surrounded by books, ideas, and a love for the arts. She attended the Dana Hall School in Wellesley before entering Radcliffe College, where she graduated magna cum laude in anthropology in 1967. Her academic focus was Eastern archaeology, and she had already participated in fieldwork abroad, including an excavation in Iran. Friends and professors described her as intellectually curious, charismatic, and full of potential. By late 1968, Jane had enrolled on a graduate program at Harvard University, continuing her studies in archaeology. She lived in a fourth-floor apartment in University Road in Cambridge, Massachusetts, just a short walk from Harvard Yard. Now to go to the night of the crime. On the evening of January the 6th, 1969, Jane had dinner with fellow students and later then went skating with her boyfriend, Jim Humphries. Jim was also a fellow graduate student. Around 12:30 a.m. on January the 7th, she returned to her apartment after briefly visiting her upstairs neighbours. When she failed to appear for an examination the next day, concern quickly grew. Jim Humphries went to check on her and tragically discovered her lifeless body in her bedroom. She had been beaten to death, lying in her bed, still wearing her nightgown. A blunt object had caused multiple skull fractures and brain injuries. It was also further later revealed that she had also been sexually assaulted. There was one key forensic detail that emerged. Jane had consumed a glass of sherry shortly before her death. This was proved because alcohol was present only in her stomach and not in her bloodstream. It then suggested that she was murdered shortly after arriving home, possibly even within minutes. Witnesses later recalled noises on the fire escape that provided access to Jane's apartment, and one neighbour reported seeing a man fleeing the scene in the early hours. Despite immediate investigation by Cambridge Police, Massachusetts State Police, and the Middlesex County District Attorney Office, the case just continued to stall. No murder weapon was found, and there were no signs of forced entry or robbery. For decades, the case remained unsolved. Due to Jane studying ancient burial customs, early speculation hinted at ritual symbolism. For example, investigators found traces of red ochre, a pigment sometimes used in prehistoric burial rites. This fueled lurid theories, but later assessments determined that it was likely that residue from Jane's art supplies and not a symbolic clue. Despite multiple reviews and renewed interest over the years, no solid suspects emerged. Rumours about involvement by colleagues, Harvard staff, or even a spurned admirer were investigated, but ultimately they led nowhere. Jane's brother, Boyd Britton, a retired vicar in California, later said, "My sister's death shattered Jane's promising young life and our family. We have waited 50 years for an answer." Still, the evidence was preserved and files remained open. Jane's family, through grieving, continued to hope that one day the truth would emerge. In 2017, advances in forensic DNA testing brought new life to the investigation. Analysis at the Massachusetts State Police Crime Lab re-examined evidence from the scene and successfully extracted a YSTR DNA profile from preserved samples. This male-specific profile was uploaded into CODIS, the FBI's national DNA database. It resulted in a soft hit, a probable match to a man named Michael Sumter. He was a Boston area man with a history of violent crimes. Sumter had died in 2001, but the police located one of his biological brothers, whose DNA helped confirm the familial match. According to Middlesex District Attorney Marian Ryan, "We have determined that Michael Sumter is the individual responsible for the sexual assault and murder of Jane Britton." Michael Sumter had been convicted in the 1975 sexual assault of a Boston woman, and he served several years in prison before dying of cancer at 54 years old. His DNA has now been linked to at least 3 unsolved murders or serious sexual assaults. District Attorney Ryan acknowledged the difficulty in reaching a conclusion so many years later. They said, "This was a crime that shocked the city. We are grateful that, even after nearly 50 years, justice in some form could be brought to Jane and her family." So who was Michael Sumter? At the time of Jane Britton's murder, Sumter lived near Cambridge and had access to her neighbourhood. He had a pattern of sexual violence, and the method used in Jane's case was consistent with his other known offences. His known victims were often attacked in or near their homes. With no known personal connection to Jane, investigators now believe that the crime was opportunistic. He may have gained access through the fire escape, found the door unlocked, and attacked her while she was preparing for bed. At the time of his death in 2001, Sumter had not yet been connected to Jane Britton's case. Only the improvements in DNA analysis and a preserved sample from 1969 made the match possible. After the identification was announced in November 2018, Jane's surviving brother, Reverend Boyd Britton, issued a public statement through the District Attorney's office. "This DNA match may be all that we ever have, but it is the only real answer that we have received in 50 years. Learning to understand and forgive remains a challenge." His words reflect the bittersweet nature of the resolution. Relief that truth has emerged, but no opportunity for prosecution or closure in court, as the killer had long since passed away. Jane Britton was not just a victim. She was a scholar, a sister, a friend, and a young woman full of dreams. Her murder halted a promising life, one filled with potential contributions to the study of ancient civilizations. But in many ways, her case also highlights the importance of cold case investigations, DNA technology, and the persistence of justice. This case serves as a reminder that even decades-old cases can be solved. The victims and their families deserve answers, no matter how much time has passed. And finally, scientific advances and determined investigators can illuminate even the darkest, coldest crimes. District Attorney Marian Ryan noted that whilst we cannot bring Jane back, we hope this finding brings some measure of peace to her family, friends, and classmates who remember her so well. That concludes today's case. Thanks very much for listening. Just wanted to say thank you so much to all the people that have been supporting me through Super Thanks and also through Buy Me a Coffee. There is a link in the description below. Thanks very much for listening to The Crime Reel. Stay safe. Goodbye.